Everybody. My name is Clint Parrish. I'm going to go ahead and call the um, East Tampa Community Revitalization Advisory Committee for May the 7th to order. If we could start with a very quick roll call. If I call your name and you're present, please identify yourself. Connie Burton, Noreen Copeland Miller, Ebony DaCosta, Cynthia Donnell, Craig Fox, Tonette Gaines, Dr. Grace Glenn, Kimberly Headland, Eileen Henderson, Reverend Dr. Jeffrey Johnson, uh, Frankie Jones. Here. Thank you. Carlos De Laos. Present. Myself, Clinton Paris, Brand Tate, and Diane Ziegler. All right. So we have a nice, healthy attendance this evening. So let's go ahead and move forward with having some prayer to add some serenity to the moment. Dr. Johnson, you will lead us in prayer, please. I would like to have prayer. I need some prayer right now. If you got some oil and some hands to lay on.
Shall we pray? Loving God and Father, we thank you for the bounty of this day. Everything that you've given to us is a gift. For this is a day that we've never seen before and we will never see again. And we ask God that we would treat this day as such. Not only is life a gift, but this opportunity to serve our community is a gift and a pleasure as well. We're asking God that you will give us a cohesive unity spirit, that we will be forward thinking to think about those in whom are the most impacted by the decisions that we make. Guide our leadership tonight, our brother chairman, as he navigates us through this meeting. For it's in your name we do pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. You received an agenda in your packet, as Dr. Johnson referenced, and we will do the best we can to stick with that agenda. The next item up is public comment, and we will have our public comment. Um, if you want to make public comment, you're in the room. If you would step right here, state your name, and you have 3 minutes. Anyone in the room for public comment? And if you're specifically speaking on an agenda item, identify that item so that we can be aware of what it is. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Loretta Rogers Toombs or Geraldine Rogers Toombs. And in reviewing your minutes and everything, I noticed that you have approximately $450,000 allotted, I guess, for artwork on those roundabouts. And actually, I was a person who was in objection to the roundabouts. And I think that some of my perspective was accurate. And I know on 34th Street, the reason I got up to speak is because on 34th Street, frequently the street signs are knocked down by motorists. And, you know, before you spend $150,000 at that location, I would just like to recommend that you get with the city department that handles the traffic signs, transportation, Department of Transportation, to confirm how many signs have been knocked down. I mean, constantly you're seeing street signs knocked down where there are accidents occurring at that particular location. I don't know about the other two, but I definitely know that that does not appear to be a good use of tax dollars as a taxpayer. And I would just like for you to investigate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Robert Puello. I'm a member of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tampa and also a board member of the Hope Organization. I'm here today speaking on behalf of the Stormwater Ponds in East Tampa. We were honored to have Noreen and Cedric Carrington speak on behalf of Stormwater Ponds that at our Nehemiah action this past April, just a few weeks ago. Our environmental committee has been researching ways to reduce heat, flooding, and improve water quality here in Tampa, especially in East Tampa. Through our research, we learned we could make the biggest difference through the stormwater drainage system. We were excited to find that East Tampa had existing plans to tackle major stormwater ponds and wanted to continue your beautiful work. We hope the funds will be allocated in this year's budget to continue with those plans, especially for the ponds at 22nd Street and 26th Avenue. We know the community wants it and the environment needs it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else present for public comment? Come forward. State your name, and if it's a particular agenda item, identify that for us. Not, just go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Valerie Bullock. I'm a lifelong resident of East Tampa. I come down here to talk. Hopefully I can go and tell my neighbors what's going on. We see where they have the $50,000 to fix your house up and then the roof program, but no money is going into the residents' pockets. So I come down here to speak for the residents because the residents need relief. And they're getting no kind of relief whatsoever. It's like we are getting a runaround. I talked to some people earlier today, and they say, Valor, when you call, they tell you they can't say anything about the program. They don't have any updates, or they'll tell you that the program is full. And I know East Tampa CRA have money and have the funding. I'd like to know, what is it going to take to get the money in the residents' hands? I stay on 24th Avenue. And my neighbors, they've been over there 50, 60, and 70 years, lifelong residents of East Tampa. They paid taxes. They held the community down when nobody wanted to come over there. And now it's like all the programs that you all are putting out there, nothing is getting to the people. So I want to know, who in this room is for the residents of East Tampa? Is anybody concerned about the residents in East Tampa? And it can be for the new residents also, but I come to represent the old forgotten residents of the community. And I salute them because they bought houses when Black people wasn't able to buy houses. And more than likely, they're not gonna leave their house or their neighborhood. So I need answers about, is it true that they can get $50,000 for home repairs? And if so, what strings come with it? Because somebody told me they was thinking about putting a 30-year lien on your house. And I don't think that's fair for the residents, because when the builders come in, it's an open purse. We don't put no lien, we give them money to build. And it's not fair for the people who already stay there. They already bought their house, halfway paid for their house, and now you want them to put a lien on their house so the grandchildren and children can't inherit their house. That's not how we create generational wealth. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else present for public comment? Come forward and over to the end here. State your name. If you're speaking on a specific agenda item, identify that. Otherwise, just go ahead and make your comments. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Alethea Somerset. I've been a resident in Tampa for 30-something years now. And like my granddaughter said, I just came off the boat in 1991. I own a house in East Tampa that is sort of like eligible for all the programs that they're there. And yesterday I heard from somebody that the program with to repair the interior of the house, like your bath or the kitchen, has been in the works for quite a while now, and yet nobody could hear anything about what's going on there. I think the community deserves some answers as to why this is happening. I mean, you you probably looking at people who would probably try to rob the system. I understand. I heard some horror stories about people when they got the roof, they sold the house and so on. But I got my roof and I like it too as well. But I would like some assistance with my kitchen. And the thing about it, with the kitchen, I'm very angry about it because when it was built, my house, it was built very poorly. Now I'm having to build another house in spare parts because the house was built very poorly and not because of age or so on. So I would just like to know about the program about the kitchen and when it's going to be implemented because I understand that the money has been dedicated to it already and I really need to know that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else present in the room who would like to make public comments? We'll hold for board member comments. Okay. Anyone else for public comment?
We have some comments on that.
Yeah, let's clean the room first. Are we clear? Come on up.
Yeah, I had to excuse me for being a little late coming up here, but I'm handicapped and you all can see that. But you know what my concern is? My concern is about us, people of color. We pay taxes just like anybody else, but we don't not get no kind of report whatsoever. I'm a preacher, and my job is to preach to the people, like Jesus Christ told. Preach and teach them to observe all things. But so many people don't want to know nothing. They want you to stick your neck out and get it chopped off while they get the glory. And that's not right. We are people just like anybody else. Whether they want to look at us as people, we got to understand God created all of us. And I'm happy to be here. I'm an old man and I don't get around like I used to. When I was young, I played football and I got an injury. And so the more I live, the worse my injury get. But I'm happy to be here. And I got to tell you all something. It's Belmont Heights and Jackson Heights. They don't give us the fun we're supposed to have. They don't give us no fun whatsoever. They take it and give it to the white people, and they don't give us nothing. But I want you to know that we pay taxes just like anybody else. I live in Belmont Heights. I live in Jackson Heights. And you know what? When you go through Jackson Heights and Belmont Heights, they got all those retention ponds there. And you ask them, well, hey, what these things here for? And you say they retention ponds. What they retain? Nothing but mosquitoes, rats, and everything else. And that's not right. That's not right. You all got to start looking at us as people that have been blessed by the almighty power of God. And you know what? I love God. I love God with all my heart. Whether you love him or not, you got the right to do what you want to do. And I got the right to do what I want to do. I love God and Jesus Christ. They brought me here 85 years. And I'm happy to be here another year. You know, who knows? I might not wake up in the morning. But if I don't wake up in the morning, I'm going home to be with Jesus. And that's what it's all about. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. You've been so good too. Now they wanna shut my home down. I'm right there on Shadow Line. And I can't get nobody to help me. Nobody. And y'all getting this funds, if you're getting any, I know one thing, y'all sure ain't giving it to the right people that need some help. And I need help. I need help big time. And we shouldn't have to come here begging. Thank you. She just want to go to him. I got a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and give me this phone. You can take this phone.
Hey, thank you. All right, thank you, Pat. Anyone else in the room for public comment? Okay, let's go with those online with us. If you're online, state your name and well, you have 3 minutes. If you're speaking on a specific agenda item, identify that, and we will just so that we can be aware of what you're talking about. So if you're online, public comment, go ahead. I think you're on mute.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Hi, my name is Keela McCaskill. Sorry I cannot be in the room. I don't really like these Zooms when it comes to community meetings, but I wanted to ask a few things of the board to consider. Some time ago, when the owner-occupied rehab program did not happen as we requested, with the third-party assistance, giving preference to seniors and disabled persons, they told us that if it would go to through the city of Tampa, which is Kayon Henderson's group, that already has a similar program, that it will eventually, it'll cover the people that is in East Tampa. I want to know, can you all request a report of all the owner-occupied rehabs that happened in 2023 through 2024? How many was done in East Tampa? And did they receive $50,000 worth of owner-occupied rehab repairs, or was it $80,000? And clarify how much East Tampa residents are supposed to receive in terms of repairs. I like to get that. And then two, when is the program going to be available for East Tampa residents, managed and operated by the third party as we requested for the residents in East Tampa? As you all know, many of you anyway, when these individuals apply for the assistance that they need, we've had several come to this board and say, oh, my repairs wasn't done right. They told me I should be thankful that I'm even getting these repairs when I try to report it. I just want to know, when is the the program we requested as in East Tampa at this board, you requested third-party assistance. Can you get clarification on when that's going to be made available to the residents in East Tampa? I understand they're doing a revamp of these grants, but the tree trimming grant and the emergency roof repair grant are two that you really can't put on hold, because we're getting ready to go into hurricane season. And I'm just afraid that some of these residents in East Tampa, if we don't utilize this grant, one is tree trimming. We know that those trees in East Tampa, it's bad, and they can't really afford to do the tree trimming as other residents can. Since the money is there, let's use it even during your revamp. Can you request that? And then the emergency roof repair program, it's an emergency roof repair. You don't pick and choose when you make an emergency roof repair available. You can't really put it on hold when you have the resources, particularly as we get ready to go into a hurricane season. So you all have the ability to ask these questions. If you would put them out there and see if they give you some kind of a response by the next meeting or in your emails, because it's almost a sense of urgency regarding the emergency roof repair, the tree trimming grant. And then we need clarity on the owner occupied rehab to May 9th in that same building, in that room. They're having Bridges to Business, which is prime time construction, where they've invited contractors out to come see how you can participate and do some of these rehabs. Hopefully you all can attend so that you can ask additional questions once you see how that meeting is facilitated. It's hosted by the mayor. If you know contractors, you should send them there. But as East Tampa residents, you should also come and see what's being presented to the contractors, how it's being presented, and how you can potentially make an impact on how that program is rolled out by your next meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. If there's someone else on online for public comment, go and state your name. If you're speaking on a specific agenda item, identify it for us. You have 3 minutes.
Yeah, this is Joe Robinson. Y'all got my, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Ms. Robinson, and we can see your beautiful face.
Well, that's an old picture, but let me just say this, man. It's 6:21 and it took me 15 minutes to get recognized to be a participant as a public. That's a problem. That's a problem when I was on here at 6 p.m. Had I not text your manager and say, is y'all denying the public access to this meeting, I wouldn't be on here. That's a problem. Now, we don't do that on the west side, but I guess that's the east side. But what I wanted to say was congratulations for being chair, Mr. Paris. And I agree with the previous speaker. There's issues with launching programs in this interim phase. I know that Thursday they got facade grants being approved, but then they tell us that there's no more facade grants. Well, while we're approving facade grants at the meeting this Thursday at the CRA, so somebody need to get this straight because we understand there's the housing, there's the grant, there's the capital improvements. Now it's all coming together, but in the meantime, people need services. People need money for these rules. Like this young lady, I can't believe I'm agreeing with Miss Keller, but they need these roofs and stuff done because hurricane season. Hey, we got the same problem on the west side. Oh, well, it's a housing program to get your roof. Well, y'all, I'm just saying it needs to be straightened out, not just on the east, but the west. And I called as chair of the west side to tell you we're having similar issues with this whole thing getting launched. And so I just hope that y'all support that somebody get this straight, okay? Because it's not fair to sit on 19, 20, 30, combine us and you guys, $40 million, and ain't nobody getting no services, no money getting spent. Because I'd hate to have the legislature say, you know what, Tampa, y'all ain't spending y'all money, y'all programs are stagnant, and guess what? We're going to shut it down and take our money back. That's all I got to say, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your time. And y'all doing a good job, and I appreciate this new format. It really looks nice in there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Appreciate that and your support. If anyone else online, if you would like to make comments, go ahead and unmute yourself, state your name. If you're speaking to a specific agenda item identified for us, you have 3 minutes. All right. Okay, I think we've got all of our public comments. I'm going to ask everyone to indulge me with my voices. I'm trying to make it hold up. I got drafted into MC and the Tampa Guy Right Foundation's Kentucky Derby party, and I was a little bit too exuberant during the meeting and the festivities. So my voice is a little heavy, but we're gonna get through it. So just want to reassure all the residents, citizens, and those concerned about how programs are operating and what is happening. We hear you. We appreciate your concerns. There's going to be a manager's report regarding what's happening with our various programs that we have, and we will ask the pertinent questions during that time to make sure that we're informed about what is happening. I also want to encourage everyone, anyone interested or who wants specific information about any of our programs, that you need to contact our manager's office, Mr. Sergeant McCrae, and you can get all the specific information. This is something I want to encourage everyone not to do. Do not listen to street rumors and meetings at corners or church parking lots or near bus benches. Go ahead and contact the office and get the information you want so that you can be informed and know what's happening and not acting or being led the wrong way by innuendo. So, with that being said, Ms. Burton, you had a public comment you wanted to make.
Yes, thank you. I think the people can see with their natural eyes as to if any of these programs has moved forward. And I would just like to encourage board members, especially those that have been sitting for a minute. Our terms will soon be ended. And we need to ensure that we're not just being allowed to wait our expiration and see these Tampers make a hard right turn that will not be in the benefit of this community, and especially the way one speaker said, those that have toiled the soil for years and it's not benefiting. So I hope we all have heard that message that was laid out by the speakers here tonight.
Thank you very much. Okay, with that being said, let's move to our next. Go ahead, Ms. Copeland Miller.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, I did see in the minutes, and also one of the residents came up and talked about storm water. I think as I look through the budget, I'm hoping that we'll get an update tonight. We won't be whole. Because in here, when I'm looking at whole, I hope that we make some movement. We have these ongoing projects have been on hold for years. And I'm certain hopefully we get some movement tonight, especially to my time up on the board. And I agree with the young lady that talked about the roundabout. First of all, that was plans and that one that's on 22nd, 1911, the internet in Tampa. I certainly know that that's the prime model. How we do not have maintenance on the roundabout. So to invest or even have $150,000 here for some roundabouts that nobody, this community really was not encouraged and did not want is, I don't think is the best way to spend our tax dollars. And I'm a homeowner over here and I pay my taxes and we can't get anything. But I'm hoping that this budget tonight will reflect some of the things that the community want, like the stormwater retention funds created so that we can have some green space and certainly allocate some dollars somewhere else. And I too, Mr. Paris, have overextended my voice, so I'm going to be quiet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Copeland Miller. I did want to say one thing before we go any further. I want to remind everyone, we have to be very careful of our communications as committee members and how we communicate. We are bound by the sunshine laws of the state of Florida, which precludes any discussion or communication regarding issues that are going to come before this board for decision-making purposes. So just be extra cautious about messages and things of that nature, and limit your communication regarding anything that we should be addressing in the public so that everybody's aware of whatever discussions are happening. So just want to remind everybody, please be aware of the sunshine law restrictions and govern yourselves accordingly. All right, with that being said, let's move on to the next item on the agenda is approval of the April 2nd minutes, 2024. They should be in your packets. They were emailed out last week, I think last Thursday or Friday. Hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at the minutes. And are there any changes that anyone has identified that needs to be made on the minutes? And let me ask you, do you need a moment to look at the minutes? Has anybody need any more time to look at any changes on the minutes? Okay. With that being said, we will take a motion to approve the minutes from the 2024. So move, is there a second? Move properly second. Is there any discussion?
Question.
Yes.
And item F up under the summer job program. Item number 6, it says.
One moment, Sister Burton. Let's get her a mic. Where's the microphone? And the importance of the microphone is if you're speaking in the microphone, what you're saying is being recorded, and our staff can go back and really listen to that and help with putting together the minutes for the meeting. So thank you, Sister Bird. Go ahead.
All right. Item number 7 regarding the youth summer program. And number 4 says 21 students returned from last year. Well, they reapplied. And then 54 applicants have been approved to move forward in the hiring process. We know we asked for 72, so I just would like to get a clear number of where we're at. I've heard all the excuses why we couldn't get to number 72, but where are we at in terms of how many will actually be starting the summer youth program?
Okay, is that your only item for the minutes?
That I want to discuss right now.
Okay, so we can't discuss items in the minutes. We either approve the minutes or we correct the minutes to reflect.
Well, I like that to be corrected. Is it 54, 21? What is it?
the minutes reflect what occurred last meeting. Now, we can discuss that when we get to the manager's report and flesh out what the numbers should be and what we would like them to be. But the minutes as they're written are to reflect what transpired at the previous meeting. So for discussion purposes of what should or shouldn't be happening, that would have to wait until we get to the manager's report.
You can understand that the meeting minutes are approved subject to revision of the number needed.
I don't know that a question has been raised that the minutes don't reflect what transpired at the last meeting. The question is about the program and the number of people who will participate in it. So I don't think there's any reason the minutes would not be approved as they are. Hold on for a minute. Go ahead. If the question is, this does not reflect what was discussed at the previous meeting, yes. But if that's not the question, if the question is about the program, the number of students to participate, we can have a robust discussion about that during the manager's report. So if there's any further discussion as to, yes.
In action item 3, I requested a report. It said requested information for that first bullet about the 5 years of the resurfacing, and also at the bottom where it said I questioned the stormwater retention. I requested a report, an update for the stormwater retention, not question, but requested a report on both of those items. Instead of information, I asked for a report. So that's my note of correction, not
Okay.
information, but report.
Got it. Any further discussion regarding or correction that needs to be made to the minutes? Or is there a motion then to approve the minutes with the necessary corrections? All right, call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed?
Opposed.
Ms. Burton opposed. All right. All right. So let's move along. The next item on the agenda is 1911 East Osborne Street purchase. Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Microphone.
Good evening, members of the East Tampa CAC. Cedric McCray, CRA, East Tampa CRA Manager. A part of your packet, and I shared some information with you all a couple of months ago, I believe it was the March meeting, as it relates to some parcels that we potentially were looking at to purchase. And unfortunately, there was some back and forth with the property owner at that time, so I wasn't able to present that to you last month. But the property at 1911 East Osborne, we do have a contract in place on that parcel. In a part of your packet, you have a map. Last summer, early fall, we purchased the 5 parcels, and I believe it's right under 2 acres on the Palafox Street. And we are looking to purchase the property at 1911 East Osborne to create an additional ingress, egress, or entrance and exit point to the property on Palafox, and wanted to seek your approval. The asking price of the property was $617,500, and with the additional closing costs and other fees that will be associated with, we as a staff are requesting the approval and recommendation to the CRA board of $637,000 for your approval. And ideally, it would be on the agenda for the May 9th CRA board meeting, and then we will move forward with closing at a later date. But just wanted to bring that to your attention, and I will pause for any questions that you may have. Ms. Burton.
I'm beginning to believe we're running some kind of slush fund up in here. The property value is what? What is the property value to that? That's one question. Number 2, have we put together any type of strategic plan, proposal, that land right there? Of course, I would like to see something done, but the necessity to having to purchase this additional property to do something that the city has held onto that property for a number of years. Now it's back in our lap for less than this amount, because I think you got that other property, 2.5 acres, for $280,000. So this 3 times the value. You already know I'm opposed. And I'm gonna tell you why else I'm opposed. You went and purchased property over there, not you, so this is not a personal against you. But the property that we purchased over there off of Nebraska and 21st for $500,000 in front of Checkers. Big enough just to put maybe 2 complexes. It still got the for sale sign up there after we didn't purchase it. We got about 30 plus lots that this CRA board has been in the possession of for well over 5 years. We ain't did nothing with none of that. And so now if we're just gonna take care of developers, families and friends and foes, that is ridiculous to come to this board when not one residential housing rehab program has been even started in the last 5 years. It's an insult. It's an insult, not to you, but to anybody that will put this proposal together when the majority of this community has not even benefited from a dollar from this CRA.
One more. Let's get the microphone down so we can go. Hold on for a minute. Okay.
Cedric, thank you. Just a quick search online. Market range is between 611,000 and 675,000, but there is a pending sale. Is that pending sale with the CRA currently? Okay. So just understanding process and procedure, why is it that it is coming before us now if the CRA has already entered into contract?
So I brought this to you all very softly a couple of months ago, and the seller has, no, it was actually the March meeting. And the seller has requested to move forward with the process. Real estate has put it under contract. It is pending, and we can't move forward without the recommendation from the CAC and then the CRA board approval.
So procedurally, just so that I understand, procedurally, the CRA can enter into a purchase and sale agreement for a piece of property without having the approval of the advisory committee first?
Yes. And
okay.
That is the process of real estate. And
yeah.
It could ultimately get to the CRA board on May 9th, and they could say, no, you don't want it.
Right.
And then the property is back available.
And what was that? What was the offer again?
617.5.
617.5. Okay, which is right in line with market value. Okay, thank you.
And because of the amount, we did receive 2 appraisals. One was under that 611, and then one was so amount was 617.5.
Is that the only property?
Oh, Ms. Bird, if you would get the microphone. Let's record it. Thank you.
You're saying that we need that particular piece of property to assemblage whatever the plan is, because maybe y'all discussed the plan. I haven't heard it. But on Osborne and 19th, there are additional properties there. That old, where's our bargaining chips? There's additional property next to that house. Is abandoned. That used to be a what do you call it? A dance hall or something, a bar and wine shop. That's been for sale. So why is the pressure to move for that particular piece of property?
Need additional exit points. Get back to the.
You don't have a plan yet. You don't have a plan.
But
you don't have a plan.
And I've shared in our previous meetings that would be options to enter on that property. The reason why we got it, ACD, PDBG, they could not sell it any higher. They only transferred it. That was articulated back when.
And my last question to this is that that property that we're talking about, not the one for $600,000, but the original piece, it has a very wide driveway. And you don't believe that even working with that piece of property back there, the original piece of property back there, with the long extension driveway, they have a abandoned house on that property as well. That's not enough to get people in and out.
Right. The abandoned house that you're referring to is already, that was part of the purchase last year. Still need an additional interest basis point from that side.
Primarily for emergency management.
Correct.
I just have.
Hold on for a minute. Miss Tate was up next. Miss Tate, if you would.
No.
You have a question? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, just one final question. Just one final question. Let's say hypothetically,
the CRA does move forward with purchasing this. What would be the total assessed value of the assemblage?
That I could not tell you. I know that the appraisal based on now we did not pay that, but previous two were right a little over $1 million.
Okay.
So and then if you add the 617 on top of that.
And to my colleague's point, Ms. Burton's point, the plan, I believe in previous conversations, there was the potential to do affordable housing here, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Some type of affordable housing, modular structures. There's been a lot of conversation, and we are engaged with the planning department and HCD, which is our housing arm, to have those discussions about moving forward. But ultimately, we have to assemble the properties to be able to have that discussion. So that's why I see it.
Other comments from the committee? I would just like to share a general concept that I think we should approach with land availability in East Tampa. It is a very hot market, and it's only going to get hotter. And so I think it's incumbent upon us, one, if we have the funds, the property is available, and we can see how this will fit into benefiting our community, it is incumbent that we get our hands on this property. Property could always be sold back off at some point in time in the future. You could hold on for a minute. Let me finish my comments. Property could always be sold in the future. It doesn't mean you can always buy it in the future. And so my perspective on this is, while it's not a perfect situation, it may not be all that we think it should be. I think it is incumbent upon us, if we have the funds available, we get our hands on property in East Tampa while we continue to work on our plans for how it's going to be developed to benefit the community. I saw a hand come up to my right here. Anybody have a hand? Yes, Dr. Johnson, go ahead. Let's get a microphone over here. We could pass it down.
Mr. McCray and those who may be listening to the recording, I think the challenge is that we have the COT. We're building a community land trust through assemblage, but we're not seeing any fruit. That's the issue. We understand that we need to purchase the land for the purpose of affordable housing for those who don't have anywhere to stay. But how long does that take? You know, that is the frustration of the community. Now, we know that affordable housing is a relative word. What's affordable to me may not be affordable to somebody else. And the longer we wait to assemble and build on the land, it will become more expensive for those to purchase in the community in which they lived in. It will behoove the city to move quickly as possible. I think there needs to be a dual purpose of this community land trust. Yes, there are some things that you are waiting out for from the assemblage, but then there are some things that need to be built on immediately for the current crisis. I think that is what the concern is, because we're not seeing anything. As we go through our inventory list of all of the things that we have purchased, I think me, Ms. Burton, Ms. Miller, we may be the longest tenured ones on this board. We've gone through a lot of purchases and we haven't seen anything develop. This predates you.
Right.
So once again, this is not personal. And I characterize my statement by those who may be listening from the city. That is the frustration, and that is going to be the uproar from the community, that we keep spending upward to $1 million to build and add to a community land trust, but there is no building. And so the people are suffering. Even those who have the opportunity to purchase a home and they're renting in East Tampa, they can no longer afford to rent, when in fact, if they were able to purchase at this rate, at where we are right now, they'll be able to afford it. But 2 years from now, they won't be able to afford it. So I hope that the city moves quickly. And I want to remind the rest of our members, please remember, we're just a recommending body. At the end of the day, our CRA board is going to do what they deem is necessary. Whether we pass this or not, they're going to move forward. So being that the board would do what they want to do anyways, I think they need to hear what the citizens are saying. You're purchasing all of this and we're still suffering.
Ms. Tate.
Thank you. Thank you. I am extremely happy to see the number of community members here today. Take what we are saying to the CRA. Please, we need your voices in the room as well. We plead and we struggle and we fight, saying the same thing over and over. We are, and we definitely know this, we are an advisory board only, because if we vote it down and it goes to CRA, they have the power to vote it up, seize the funds, and buy the property. But you in the meeting now, please bring more of your community members so that you can hear and understand exactly what is going on with your taxpayer dollars. Thank you. You have 3 minutes public comment.
Right. Go ahead, Ms. Burton.
So the time for you to talk, sister, would be Thursday morning at 9 a.m. at the city council meeting, because this is when this is going to be decided. It's a really insult that the ball is. I feel like I'm wasting my time sitting here. You already made a decision, the real estate department, but yet we have 30 plus properties for infill work that has been laying dormant since Domain Home first started dropping the first brick in our community. We ain't built not one house. So it seemed like to me it's a deliberate and a intentional, and I hope everybody in the administration hear me until I get off this board. It is a deliberate and intentional effort to push Black working class people out of this neighborhood. This is, I don't care how much money we got. If it don't benefit me, it ain't my money. And it's not benefiting us. And so some little developer gonna be real, real happy, because they can take that lot if they want to and split it and did 5 other things if a developer was dumb enough to buy it. But a developer wasn't gonna spend $600,000 or $500,000 for a piece of land, because they come to get all their money. But they know this is the duck squad here. And they can come here to this board, just like we purchase all of this property, have all these strategic plans, bring all of these people that's well connected to the administration. They get all the money and we still don't have a damn thing to show for it. Nothing.
Let's hold in just a moment. We need some comments. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to ask if the following information could be provided so at the next meeting on this property, so we can make the informed decision. I'd like to know whether the lack of entry or exit onto Osborne Avenue, how would that limit development to the property, whether that's for additional space being made for emergency vehicles to make maneuvers, or is that more of a like a local like a city requirement as far as ingress and egress to the facilities, and also if a loss of that property would have any impacts to any stormwater development needed to complete the stormwater retention needed to construct any properties. I know it's kind of difficult since we don't have a design, but if we could run the back end potential solutions. Yeah.
I'm almost positive any development we're going to have some form of retention built in on the property itself. And logistically, and you can't tell from the map, but that little sliver of that flag from Palafox to 19th Street is tables wider than that. So it would be very difficult for emergency vehicles and traffic to go in and out. And when the property was purchased last year, I mentioned and said that we're probably going to have to purchase additional pieces to make it function. So that just bringing it back to you all for your recommendation.
Mr. Ziegler.
Diane Ziegler. In the interest of time for tonight, I would like to just make a motion that we move forward and spend the extra money to purchase that property at 1911 East Osborne. There's a big cry for more housing. Unfortunately, land is also very expensive, but this is the way to create the housing. You need the land under the housing. We also need to address public safety. If we don't have the second entrance and for egress, you're not going to be able to have fire trucks and so forth go in and out of the property. So in the interest of just providing additional housing and meeting public safety requirements, I make the motion that we move forward and purchase the property for the amount of $637,500. And it does sound like a lot of money, but in the interest, there's been in the past administrations of the EDCAC, there were properties that came up and the CRA did not, the EDCAC did not spend the money. There were houses that needed sewage or wastewater pipes hooked up, and we did not fund them. It was told to go look for a block grant, and we squandered a lot of time. And I also think there was also a lot of sabotage in the community, telling property owners, don't sell, don't sell. Well, that kind of message is what drives up the cost of property. Like it or not, that kind of sabotage has backfired against us. So I think in the interest of time, and I think what Mr. Johnson said, that the land will only get more expensive. It will.
Hold on.
So yeah, please, I'm not done yet.
Okay.
And I also would like the public to please not make so many public comments. It's very hard for us to hear up here.
Point of order. Hold on. Wait. Point of order. Hold on. Please put that down. Now listen. One thing we're going to do is we're going to respect each other. That is absolutely imperative. Or trust me, nothing will ever get done. So I implore people who are in the audience and those sitting up here, if you're going to participate, you are going to respect other people. And you can't make chitter chatter when you don't like what somebody's saying or you do like it. Otherwise, it becomes inefficient. Did everyone on the committee hear the motion? Okay, did you not hear the motion? Hold on. Okay, you did. Then let me restate the motion. Ms. Ziegler has made a motion that we approve the request to purchase the property for the $637,500. Now, is there a second to the motion? Is there a second to the motion? The only thing I need to hear is either there's a second or the motion fails for lack of a second. Is there a second to the motion? I second the motion that we purchase the property. Is there any further discussion? Yes. Let's have the discussion. Ms. Burton had her hand up first.
Let me bring it down some so I won't be offensive. I don't even like when you took us to the second motion.
I want to go on record to say we need the property. That's number one. But I could no longer agree to purchase property until I hear a plan of when housing will be developed. Because right now we're aiding and abetting building a community land trust with no plan. We see renderings, but that's not a plan. So I cannot in good conscience, even though we need it to vote for us to have this, and there hasn't been a plan of how we're going to develop. So I want to go on record to say that. Do we need it? Yes. But what's the plan? We can't just keep buying things and it's just sitting there, and who's going to eventually benefit from it in the future? Because our residents are not, because we're not hearing a plan from it.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Historically, I think the bigger issue here is a lack of accountability to follow up with the CRA board based on the decisions and the recommendations from this advisory committee. So my question is to the tenured committee members, how in the past have you held the CRA board accountable to move forward with things? Like, what have you personally done in order to get in front of the CRA board and hold them accountable to do what's right? How have you handled that? That's to anyone that's been a tenured member on this committee.
Over the years, we have requested reports, which when you get the minutes, that word report is not there. You never get the reports. We have asked to be engaged in the process. Doesn't happen. We go to city council and bring it to city council attention to get some reports. Once again, it's they continue stuff for years at city council, whether you look at the agenda or not. We're going to continue this month. And before you know it, a year has passed. So we've attempted to hold them accountable. We have followed the process, but we've not received reports. Like once again tonight, we don't have reports. We asked to get the manager's report in advance, so that way we can review it before we get here. A lot of time we don't, or you go to city council meeting, they're walking an agenda item on, you had no idea about it. We met this week, this day, and then they'll walk on the item. So we've attempted to and ask for accountability, but sometimes you get it, but most of the time you don't.
Well, something is not working. Something is not working. And, you know, if we really want to, you can't govern from an ivory tower. So governance needs to be amongst the people. I'm going to give you another example of just what I am seeing as an absentee approach. The city held a meeting, the city staff and the CRA staff held a meeting on April 20th to go over the church site. I think this goes to the bigger picture of accountability regarding the church site that was recently purchased by the CRA. And I was extremely disappointed to not see the chair of the CRA and our councilwoman, Gwendolyn Henderson. There is a growing perception, which I expressed to her via email after the meeting, about an absentee approach amongst her constituency, specifically to community matters. So I did send her an email to follow up with that. And outside of the perception of an absentee approach, there was not even an acknowledgement of my email. So there is a lack of professional courtesy as well. So I think that we need to start becoming a little bit more aware of what the community needs. And we probably need to start showing up to the CRA meetings to hold them accountable on what needs to be done.
Right, go ahead.
Yeah, I believe that Mr. McCray mentioned that he wanted to bring this up at the next meeting for us to vote on it. And I think this clearly is a topic, and and this purchase would be something that the community and the board, cares about very much. And I think if we did a vote tonight, it would be extremely rushed, and we're not going to get any kind of result that we wish. And we still have the 2025 budget to discuss that is extremely important to everybody. So I don't know if I have to make a motion for it, but I think that we should hold off on any votes on this property until next month, as it was originally suggested.
Any further discussion on the motion? Hold on. Any further discussion on the motion? Can we pass the microphone? Thank you.
I would just like to remind everybody that while affordable housing and this particular parcel is extremely important, there are all of those additional parcels that have yet to be developed. We're purchasing other properties in other locations around the city with no plan, as everybody's pointed out. But there's vacancy. There's still vacancy happening. So this lot has a structure on it that will sit probably vacant, somewhat blighted for an extended period of time. Just like the for sale sign that is on the lot still at 21st Avenue and Nebraska. The concern about these properties sitting vacant, sometimes being overgrown, any structures on them not being well kept, that is a blight on our community. And I think we have to, if those, if we don't have, we have the money to purchase the property, we need to be maintaining them and coming up with a plan. And there has to be that accountability. And I can't support this without seeing, you know, a list every month of these are the properties we have and these are the plans going forward for that, because just buying properties to buy property, what's the point if we can't even maintain them, we can't develop them, we can't do anything.
Ms. Burton.
I think some form of sensitivity has to be given when the passion of the people is very clear. And when I say that, you know, we all could be somewhere else doing whatever, taking care of our families, and of course the community come out in hopes every month that their needs are going to be taken care of. That particular piece of property is maintained. The windows ain't fouled out, it ain't busted out, but the lack of respect that has been given to this community as it relates to the issues that the community put forth. And so the board members say, what have we done to encourage or talk to members of the CRA board? Well, the CRA board is the city council. They're the same people. But it just goes to show their lack of disrespect that they have toward this community. A request has been made for the chairwoman to come and speak to this board. She ain't got here yet. And she has just been elected as the continual chairwoman for the CRA. And so to this community that is watching itself being gentrified, being pushed out, being told we are not clear on what we want, we do know what we want. We would like to see dollars utilized for the uplift of our people. Point blank. It cannot be East Tampa being the first CRA in the state of Florida, the first CRA in the city of Tampa, but has been so mismanaged by this administration. Because if we had the ability to do what we want to do, with having almost $24 million, which ain't no lot of money, but I tell you what, we would have been talking about revitalizing Tampa Theater. We'd have went around the corner and seen about Miss Sue bathroom. We'd have took care of some roofs. We'd have uplifted our children so they can see daylight out of a blighted community, as well to what's on this agenda for Thursday, talking about how to revitalize Franklin Street, how to take care of mammals at the aquarium, $15 million. So until this community open its eyes to say we got to march on down to city council and let them know that the things that we need, whether they do it or not, we'll get a chance to meet them at the ballot box, because they got to come back our way in less than 4 years. And they should not be allowed to come back and kiss, be in our churches, hugging our communities, or using black parents to talk their message. We know what we need. We got to demand it.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm not sure if it was mentioned, but I checked the agenda for this Thursday and it is on the agenda. So it may be a moot point this evening for us to even discuss. My point would be, then I know there are community members here and I know how effective it can be when you have numbers that are presented when they oppose one of these agenda items. So since it's already on the agenda and looks like a done deal to me, I would encourage the public to make a stand and show up, because I will say this, in the short time that I've been doing the work that I do, I can tell you that your voice matters. One voice matters. So I'm hoping that that message gets through to the public and they understand that they need to be there and they need to say what they need to say, because council will listen.
Thank you very much. If there no further discussion, I'd like to, are you ready to call the question? Hearing no objection, all,
Just clarification. I heard two motions on the floor. You second the first motion.
that's
Mr.
only,
Fox
only
brought up a
motion,
second motion.
this only motion is Ms. Ziegler's motion to purchase the property for the amount that was recommended.
Okay.
Yes, discussion.
This is what I'd like to say that I just thought of. I would like for us to move forward because I think most of us will vote against it. And the reason I say that is because I think it would send a message to the city of Tampa, to the CRA board. For us to not do anything, I think is the wrong message. But I think if we do move forward with the motion, and I kind of feel the consensus will be we're not going to move forward, that is a message that I think the CRA needs to hear from this panel, along with the community.
Okay, all right, so we've heard the discussion. We're ready for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
All right, do we record the vote? Roll call, okay. Connie Burton,
No.
Noreen Copeland Miller, Evelyn DaCosta,
No.
Cynthia Dow,
No.
Craig Fox, Toinette Gaines, Dr. Grace Glenn, Kimberly Hedlund, Eileen Henderson, Dr. Jeffrey Johnson, Frankie Jones, Carlos De Losa, Clinton Parrish, yay, Fran Tate, Diane Ziegler. All right, the motion fails. Dr. Is it?
Say parliamentary procedure standpoint, when a vote goes forward, only abstain if you have a conflict. So unless you have a direct conflict of interest, that's the only way that you can abstain. So we don't want our vote to go somewhere and be rescinded to come back because it was improperly done. I ask that you do that roll call again with that.
Do we have to clarify why we abstain?
Unless there's, just say conflict of interest.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think there are only two people am I correct? Yes. All right, so let's just record their votes. Ms. Gaines? No. And Ms.
Really, I'm recusing myself.
Ms. Copeland Miller.
Because I've recused myself. My address is 1911 Chelsea, and this person is on Osborne, so I know that owner.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, and all right, so let's move forward our agenda. Next on the agenda is presentations, Faith Baptist Church Community Engagement Update, Stephen Benson, City Planning Director. I'm sorry, we have Evan Johnson. I'm sorry about that. You look similar.
Can you all hear me okay? Yes. Thanks. All right. Evan Johnson, City Planning. Stephen could not make it tonight, so I will be handling the festivities. I also have Frank Hall, who was at the meeting on April 20th in the audience as well. And he'll be taking copious notes in addition to the recording and all of that. The reason I'm here today is to talk a little bit about our workshop we had on the 20th of April, to tell you about what we heard from the community, from those who were there, to tell you what we've heard from the survey responses that we've received since then, and to talk a little bit about what we're planning on, what we would like to do for next steps and get your feedback on that. Hold on. Just right left. There we go. So I know there was a long, robust discussion about property acquisition and affordable housing. As you all know, this is a property that the CRA does own currently. And I've highlighted where we basically are in the process right now. We had our workshop. We wanted to talk to you all about it. And then ultimately a decision needs to be made regarding demolition and cleanup of the site. And then that process moving forward. So there is going to be another workshop. There will be another opportunity, at least one. I could see somebody from planning being in the next few CAC meetings listening in if there's any conversation about the site. But ultimately, we will be back to continue this conversation moving forward. Don't need to tell you what your focus areas are, but this slide was in there, so we left it in. Attainable housing being a very important one, as well as economic development. And frankly, those were big topics of our conversation on the 20th. This is the site. We've got two main parcels. One is there right at 12th and Osborne, southwest corner. That's about 2.42 acres. One north of Osborne. So we got about 2.7 acres total. Future land use. Now, basically in the city of Tampa, for those of you who don't know, future land use is from your comprehensive plan. It speaks to the general uses that you can put on a piece of property and how much of it. So density and intensity and the types of uses. So this site, almost all of it, with the exception of this little corner right here, is what we call R20. It's residential 20, that's 20 dwelling units per acre. You can see we have R20 around the intersection of Osborne and Nebraska. And then Nebraska itself is what's called community mixed use 35, which is a higher intensity, up to 35 units an acre, but you can do a mix of uses. So you can do commercial and residential together in a pretty significant way. Everything else around it is R10, which is generally what you see out there, which is mostly single family houses at 10 units per acre maximum. Just to go over that a little bit more, R20 allows small lot, single family units. So think of a little bit more density, but single family detached. It also allows for duplexes, some townhomes, and it does allow multifamily, though again, because it's only 20 units an acre, we're not talking substantial multifamily, but it is an allowable use. The current maximum bonus or maximum density is 18 dwelling units per acre, unless you do you get a bonus, and that gets up to 20. So it's actually 18 to 20, which will give you right around 47 units with no bonus maximum. That's the maximum cap on this particular site. So we generally wanted to show you a couple of pictures of what types of development are encompassed within an R20. The things we just talked about, we've got your single family with your garage in the back. You have examples of this in that neighborhood. This is duplex with 2 units side by side. And then we have what's called a cottage court, which essentially is a multifamily around the courtyard, which I've got a couple pictures because it's probably one of the ones that most folks haven't seen a lot of. But it's, again, that's one of those smaller multifamily, can also include some single family, but it's really the orientation of the development, kind of around an open green space courtyard like that. R20 does allow some non-residential use, and it allows it in certain circumstances because we like to have all kinds of different criteria. But on the site, because it's relatively close to Nebraska, you could do up to 45,000 square feet of non-residential, which has to be like neighborhood serving, retail, restaurant, coffee shops. It's a kind of a less intense commercial. You can do up to 6,000 on the north parcel. Big caveat here is that you can't do this plus all the residential. There's a formula in the comprehensive plan. If you want non-residential, you can't do as much residential. So it's kind of a trade-off, but you can do some level of non-residential uses. This basically just speaks to what else the comp plan talks about with R20. Really, it's about neighborhood compatibility. It's a land use category that exists exactly where this place is located, which is kind of between R10 and usually between R10 and like a mixed use category, like a CMU or something like that. It's kind of a step down into most neighborhoods. All right, so I think, hold on. Oh, I have another picture of cottage courts, which apparently didn't make this presentation. So what we did on the night or the day of, I guess this was a Saturday morning, we did a visual preference survey to look at different types of development. And we presented boards, a couple of residential boards, some open space, kind of pedestrian oriented boards. And then we had a non-residential board, so like commercial. We allowed folks, I don't remember exactly how many dots we gave everybody, but everybody got the same, red and green. This was the count on the first board. You start with your church here, that's existing structure now. The one in the middle, that was the favorite of this particular board. This is what a cottage court looks like. This is essentially, again, these could be single family, they could be small duplexes, kind of, but really look like a single family scale look and feel. Aha, there's the examples I was looking for. Just more examples of what cottage courts can look like. Again, because this is probably one that most folks haven't heard about regularly. The second board we had, again, focusing on we had housing with an accessory dwelling unit. We had single family homes that exist in the neighborhood. This one down here, which I believe is one of the positive response ones, is at the corner of the property, I believe, and has an accessory dwelling unit. That's a duplex, and then right up there in the top left is also a duplex. And then we had pretty generally positive. The existing building here on Nebraska was a tie with 4 votes and 4 votes. Generally, there was positive response as it relates to non-residential. These are all. This may have a little bit of office, but for the most part, we're dealing. This is office. This has some office. Most of it is, retail, coffee shops, things like that. And then this was our public space, if you will, public space amenity board. Dog cart was not favorably voted on, as was the poop bag stand. Somebody's got to pick them up, honestly, and I can see that. This right here is basically a streetscape design. So you've got your housing, you've got your sidewalk, etc. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. This is what would be passive park, passive recreation, and of course, playground. And this right here represents pedestrian improvements. So thinking about being able to cross the street better, sidewalks, more stop signs in the neighborhood. We had lots of discussion about traffic moving too quickly, particularly on Osborne. So this was just kind of breaking down that streetscape image to give you a sense of what types of elements we look at. Street trees, sidewalks, of course, curbs and drainage. And this would be a stormwater solution here, right? So this, instead of having a typical drain gutter, this could be a landscape space for collecting water during storms. Mobility improvements that could be part of this. I'm sure you've seen these in different parts of the city. We've got sharrows, we've got crosswalks, we've got painting of intersections, which I know we have some in this area, stop signs, etc. So it just gives you a feel for, and right now in this area, there really isn't any pedestrian infrastructure in and around the site, either side of any of the roads surrounding the site. So then we had a survey, and the survey, I'm gonna grab my water real quick. Sorry about that. We had a survey, and you will get a copy of the presentation. We'll put it up on the website, so you don't have to read all of these right now, but we went ahead and included some of the open responses that we received. But generally speaking, this was kind of like, what in the neighborhood do you like now? What do you find positive about the neighborhood now? Parks, any green spaces, tree canopy, and access to retail restaurants along Nebraska. Not surprising at all in those responses, and very consistent with how the community has expressed itself when this property was, there was a rezoning case on this property a couple of years ago. Very similar to those comments as to what they want to see and what they don't want to see. What existing neighborhood issues? So what kinds of things of concern are you most concerned about? Crime, personal safety, traffic, which did come up quite a bit. Lack of sidewalks, which we talked about. Housing affordability came up quite a bit as well. And these right here, again, these are just people's open comments, speaking of types of grocery stores, talking about racing cars through residential streets. Things like that were very common in the comments as well. It said not Walmart. It said Publix, not Walmart. What elements would you like prioritized in a development plan? So there was a lot of interest in wanting to have a development that's going to have a positive impact on folks' property values. This came in the comments as well, both in this question and another like open comment question. You could also frame that as we don't want something that necessarily is going to detract from our property values or decrease it. Housing affordability was kind of, basically next to lowest as far as priority. Increased traffic, as in a concern around increased traffic, was a big discussion point. And then the scale, and that came through with a visual preference survey, as well as throughout the comments that were taken at the time. Sorry about that. So workshop takeaways from all the comments and the discussions we had during the workshop. What did we take away? There was a couple votes for on the visual preference for the existing church building. I believe there was maybe one or two comments that we've received related to the existing structures, but there really was little support in the comments that we heard regarding the existing building staying. And I'm glad to have a conversation about that and hear your thoughts. A mix of residential was generally supported, but there's a lot of concern with scale. So how do we balance the desire to create housing, particularly housing that is affordable, and also making sure that we're trying to maintain compatibility with this neighborhood? So that's a tension that's not surprising, particularly in this area that is so close to Nebraska and growing pretty quickly. Ensure housing is affordable local incomes. This was more of a statement along the lines of look specifically around East Tampa incomes and target cost around those incomes, not just the regional income levels that typically are used by, say, state and federal programs. Improve all the surrounding street, again, transportation, pedestrian amenities. This was kind of surprising how much interest there was in non-residential, neighborhood serving non-residential. So I'd love to hear if you all have thoughts on that. And then recreational uses. And again, I mentioned earlier, concern on property values. So planning's job in this instance, and what the CRA asked us to do, was to review, look at what happened a couple of years ago with the rezoning, kind of listen to the comments from the community that were taken then, look at the site, check out the building, come to you all and have a conversation, which is what the 20th was about. And then we want to put together some basic site plan concepts that kind of integrate some of the different ideas and concepts that we've heard. We want to do 3 of them right now. We want to bring 3 of them back to you all and to the community to kind of take a temperature on, did we hear you? Are we meeting your intent? We are not designing the site, but we do want to make sure that as this project goes forward, which ultimately will be an RFP, we want to make sure that the community has been heard and that has been integrated into the RFP documents throughout the process. So that's really what we were brought on to do. And that's what as we move forward. Our 3 plans that we're looking to do, one would be single family only. So single family detached with some ADUs, which would be the accessory dwelling units. This is basically what it's currently zoned for. So this would be the current rezoning. The current zoning would allow for these single family homes. So we're going to do an existing zoning approach. Then we want to do 2 mixed residential. One that's going to have a little bit of non-residential, commercial, restaurant, retail. Just most likely, we're just going to put a box site plan it out so you can see this is where it could go. And then in all 3 concepts, we will have our goal is to kind of focus on improving the pedestrian mobility connections throughout the area. So we really want this to be a net positive when it comes to transportation. And so that'll be, your sidewalks, your other amenities. We'll be looking at how can we integrate those in as well. We plan on coming back Right now, we plan on coming back to the larger community early fall. Back to you all. We haven't set a date, but I will promise you this. I will go have a conversation with CRA after this, and we'll work on a milestone schedule depending on what feedback we get tonight, and we can get that out to you all just so you get a better sense of what our target dates are. And then after that, there will be an RFP process for a developer builder to execute the plan. That was a lot, I know, and I'm sorry, but I know you all
Mr.
have
Chair, I have
such a
some comments.
such a lot to do tonight. So,
Excellent.
So in the interest of time,
yes, sir.
and so we have some order, let's just go around the room
Yes, sir.
and we'll just work our way this way. Everybody gets a chance. Take your chance when you have it, because we want to try to keep the meeting moving along. So let's start on the end here with Ms. Jones. No comments? Move it along.
Thank you for the presentation. This is Cynthia Donnell. I was just looking at some of the site plans and the proposals. I do like the proposal number 2, development plan number 2 for mixed use development, green space to include some ADUs. You mentioned that you're going to come back in early fall with the report to provide what?
We're going to come back to the early fall for a community workshop. So we did one in April 20th. We'll be back. This is again a target. We wanted to hear from you all first to talk to the general public, but we will be back to you all before then.
Okay.
Was the intent was to come here first with the ideas and then take them out to the larger community, unless you all want to do it another way. I mean, we're open to that as well.
Diane Ziegler, I'm definitely in favor of green space. I think we need to keep our tree canopy in Tampa to provide cooling, and it makes it very pleasant.
Yeah, I have 2 questions. First question is for the formula, if it's commercial, and how does that reduce density? Do you know off the top of your head where that is, or could you provide it to us, area manager?
I can provide it to the area manager. I know where it is, but I don't know exactly where it is. So I can send it out tomorrow to Cedric, and he can send it out to you all.
Okay, great. And then second question is okay. I guess for Cedric when he gets back, but like to just get clarification as far as if there is commercial on the property, how, like, would the city lease it out? Would they, would the CRA funds be on the hook for any kind of maintenance of those properties?
I don't think those decisions haven't all been made, but I mean, the intent would be this would be developer led. So ultimately it would be their property. They're doing the construction.
Okay.
I assume, and Melissa, you may know more about, the idea would be they would be eventually would be receiving the site to do the work per the proposal.
The design based on what is approved by the community. And then, but they are responsible with that for me. And we have not decided yet what it's gonna be as a sell or rentals. That's still touring.
Yep. First, thank you. I was at the presentation on April 20th. It was very beneficial. I do want to take a step back and make a general statement to my colleagues on this committee. I think that this is a wonderful example of what our expectation should be when something like this needs to be presented to us. I think if something like this was presented to us on the motion that we just turned down, I think that it would have inspired a more positive conversation. So I think that this should probably be our expectation when matters of land assemblages come before us, that this is the process that needs to be followed so that we can make an informed decision. So thank you.
Thank you.
I purposely did not attend, but just forget that part. Are you familiar, sir, with Resolution 568?
I am familiar with it because I see you all every Thursday talking
see
about
me.
it. I,
Right.
you and others, yes, ma'am. So
Yes, yes,
I
sir.
have become interested and educated on it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So resolution 568 talks about harm that was done to Black people in the Black community. It says that the city and the community, the council wrote this resolution. The people didn't write the resolution. The council did. The council said that the Black community has been done harm, right? It also says that the city benefited as a result of that harm. And it also states that policies were developed that continued to harm even after slavery, right? So the council wrote a resolution in 2020 saying that they want to repair the damage. How do you repair the damage when you have the medium income household of people in East Tampa make about $24,000? You tell me how they're going to fit into that plan. How would they fit into that plan? Because right there where that church is located across the street, if we could take our real CA dollars across the street, we can help some of those homeowners, right? And uplift them economically. But the two brand new homeowners, because almost $500,000 for those two houses right there on the corner, they ain't gonna want there's no any kind of duplex. But what we plan on doing is holding the city accountable to resolution 568. So in your design, in this community mind, as they go about developing on that church property, either the council lied and said that what they did to Black people don't have to have a repair of damage, or either this community is courageous enough to say, we want to see a resolution that reflects we want to see a resolution that reflects in the development moving forward in any development in the Black community. So the attraction of others coming in, they all welcome, but not with the pushing us out. So in other words, you won't be building the property, but if they gonna all be, like wall to ceiling glass and outdoor retention, and then at the end of the day, the developer say that property is worth, that home is worth $500,000. We don't even want that. Don't even start there. Read the resolution. Go back to the board and tell us how you gonna respect the resolution that was written by the existing council that's still sitting there that repair damage to Black people. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
If we could, Mrs. Miller, let's give her a chance to make comments if you'd like to.
She didn't hear. She don't know. Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening. Thank you for your presentation. I too was at the initial presentation, and I gave my input at that time, so I don't need to give input a second time once you send it out to the group, correct?
No, you don't need to, but if in this context you want to, by all means.
Okay,
If there's
great.
something I missed in the discussion or what I've presented tonight, I would love to hear it. Absolutely.
Okay, great. I have a question. What pushes this project forward with the purchase that we made on the property versus the purchases that we made as I served as chair, Ms. Burton served as chair, Ms. Goodley served as chair. Nothing has been pushed forward and built. How is this project? I'm trying to understand. My expertise is in the medical field, but I'm truly trying to understand redevelopment. What pushes this project forward versus we three that served for 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 years? I just want an explanation.
And I wish I could give you that explanation. I can tell you I've told you what my role is in planning. Cedric maybe could speak to the history of why this particular property has been prioritized over maybe some of the other properties that the CRA owns. Our role really is, in this instance, is we're trying to be for lack of a better term, a service provider, if you will, for the CRA. And our expertise is in planning and in conceptual design and the code and the plan and all of that. So they brought us in to focus on this property, but ultimately it was a CRA request that we were responding to. So not to punt, but I'm going to have to tell Cedric he's going to have to respond to that one.
Go ahead. What's your point? Go ahead.
Good evening,
Yes,
Ebony DaCosta. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
I guess my biggest concern would be, and I'm sure I would have agreement, is there's a dire sense of need of urgency when we're talking about affordable housing and when we're talking about execution of things being completed and done when it comes to the East Tampa CRA. So with that being said, is there information available from an economic perspective in addition to their comments of what they would like to see and being prioritized to make sure that that aligns with the end goal or the plan? Because I think to a lot of my counterparts, that has to definitely be taken in consideration because though the development is beautiful and I like Plan 2 and Plan 3, I do see potentially that that's not going to fit for every resident that is currently there and that has been there.
Mhm.
So I just want to make sure that in addition to getting their feedback of what they would like to see and voting and prioritizing the development and all of that, once we get past all the aesthetics, is the information available, at least to us, if we're voting on it, from an economical perspective of what that looks like as well?
Well, let me, what, I guess if you could help define a little bit more specifically when you're talking about economics, what types of things do you want to know?
Yeah, I mean,
Moving forward.
just what is the income and I mean let's
So the
really dig
cost
into
of
the
house-
the
cost of
demographics,
housing,
all of
the
that, the
property
household,
values.
all of that. Yeah, like is that aligning with any of those plans?
So ultimately, any one of these plans will, the intent has been, and that was at the direction of this area as well. We say housing, but ultimately it was housing. We will be focusing on affordable level housing. So there will be restricted units in any one of these schemes. And so it will be a mix, will be a mixed income type layout, but it was always the assumption has been that, the CRA board set aside a significant amount of money for affordable housing. So this property was really a focus of, we want to get affordable housing or a mixed income housing mix, which is one of the reasons why there's that tension between how much can be done and what the community around it would like to see best, right? And I think that we, through design, I hope, and through outreach and education, we'll find something that most folks are comfortable with. I think ultimately compromise everybody. You're going to have both sides a little annoyed at the ultimate, deliverable. But what we want is to have something that isn't just, the bare minimum of what you can get out there. The city, the CRA has invested significant money in the property with an intent to accomplish a goal when it comes to providing housing and housing that's affordable. So that's what we're hoping to be able to bring back to the community in a way that says, look, we can address some of these issues, the concerns you have with good design, and kind of dealing with some of those other issues that you identified, like transportation and things like that. So that's what we want to accomplish, but we certainly can we will bring back information that will have what the desired mix is and probably even some examples of what that may actually cost, because there may be a further investment that needs to be made to ensure that the affordability levels are maintained. And it's just it's a back and forth. And when you get a development group involved, it will continue to be a back and forth. But CAON and the folks in housing community development do this a lot. And I think that ultimately will be an ongoing conversation, but that's definitely part of any development program.
Thank you.
No, thank you for the question.
If Ms. Bird,
Yes.
we-
Thank you. I would hope, as a city staff person,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
That you respect the council members that are the CRA board
that has established the resolution that says a portion of wealth has to come back to the community that's harmed. So I hear you, but I don't think you hear me. And I don't think you see this community, because if you did, you would have had maybe I'm assuming that according to the study that was taken, saying that the general wealth in East Tampa was $24,000. That scorecard that they present every 4 years, right? So the design, the build, the concept should be reflected that one day I want to be a millionaire, but right now I'm at $24,000, but I still need somewhere to stay. So to bring us back anything that would be opposed, in opposition to that, is working against our interests. We need you to stay right there where the council have instructed this community that they plan on repairing the damage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just briefly, I don't want to belabor the presentation, which I think is quite comprehensive. I must echo that. I think it somewhat is overly optimistic and aspirational. The crisis in this community is low income. I'm not going to use the word affordable. I'm going to go low income housing that people in a low income bracket can get into. That is the most important thing to stabilize this community. I think I used to be concerned about more affluent housing. That seems to be being built through the private sector at a very fast pace. So I would push for this to really address the problem that we have of low income housing, so that people that truly need a chance can afford it. And I may be gone when the vote comes, but I'm confident the people sitting here will do all they can to assist people in that bracket with the opportunity to attain ownership in those homes. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you for your time.
And thank you very much. All right, we look forward to having you come back. All right, next up we have capital projects update. Melissa Martinez, come on down. You're the next contestant on Meet the CAC. We need a microphone. We still can be recorded. You know that one there, where that one was.
Hello, my name is Melissa Martinez. I'm the Senior Project Manager for the CRA. In your packets, you should have something that looks like this. These are the updates for projects. And actually, if you have any questions, let me know. Your updates are in your packets.
That one, is that it?
This one, it looks like this. I don't know, you don't have any color?
Is this what I'm referring to?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Do we have any questions about the projects that are listed here?
It's right here.
Oh, hold on. So it should be in your packet. This is what it looks like.
Right here.
Has a blue Tampa CRA at the top, and then underneath it, a list of various projects.
Okay, so this is what you're working on, right? Is there any reason, would your department be working with any of the infill housing? Is that a different department? Pardon me? So that wouldn't be you. Okay.
Okay, on here where you have the stormwater projects, 5 6. Those are all on hold. Can you tell me, give me an update, what's going on with that? Because it's been going on for some years now. So, and this is the ongoing, supposed to be a status report of projects. Okay, so what's the status?
My understanding, we're this evening is pending on any budgets for the FY25.
Okay, so you're saying that for next year?
Can we get the mic down this way, please? Ebony.
Good evening, Ebony DaCosta. Thank you so much for actually putting this together for us. This is new, so this helps kind of simplify everything. But I guess my biggest question that I don't see is I don't see our fence. So the Memorial Park Cemetery fence. Okay, so
You're a manager of that project.
Okay.
But it was, and it's written down here. I spoke with the director this morning. She told me to add it to my list. So it will be updated. So the next month should have that in there.
Thank you.
There are some projects that are on hold. The Stormwater Pond project on 26th and 22nd. It says pending CAC approval FY25. That's a little concerning for me because we have the funds to do it now. So what are we waiting for the next fiscal year to do something that we have the funds to do now?
Can you hear me? Okay. Good evening, Cedric McCray, East Tampa CRA manager. The priority back in February when the item was discussed with the CRA board was the pond at North 22nd Street on the 22nd Street corridor between Hillsborough Avenue and MLK. And as we get into the budget discussions, you will see that there have been funds that are recommended to be allocated to that specific line item.
Through the chair to you, Mr. McCray. I hear that, but the priority level on this is already signified as being high. So if it's high, why are we waiting until October for that to be enacted when there are funds that are unused in the budget now that we can move to get it done?
Well, and you are correct with that. The funds are available, but the pond on 22nd was listed as the priority, and we did not have a formal line item in the budget for that. And there are some existing concerns with the property on the pond on 26th, and I've discussed that in previous settings as it relates to the cemetery that abuts it, and making sure that we're doing our due diligence. So it was at that time it was just shared and discussed with the CRA board that the pond on North 22nd Street would be the priority.
Other questions, comments? Let's where's the mic? Let's pass the mic. Pass the mic. Pass the mic.
Okay. So, Mr. McCray, you're saying that on track is the Gator building, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So with that Gator building, I know that I don't know how much. What was the cost for the strategic planners to come out?
For the CRP update, or are you talking about the strategic action plan update?
Both of them. What was cost?
Well, we haven't received formally the and agreed upon the contract for the CRP update as of yet. The strategic action plan that was completed in 2022, I believe that was somewhere between $350,000 to $370,000.
Okay. So now in order to move forward, we need to assemble a design team to say actually what that would look like, and then hire an architect, and then hire a builder. And that's what, I'm not a.
That is correct.
That's kind of like.
That's the process. And also in that process is as we try to assemble other parcels going south and east on Lake Avenue.
So this is your top priority.
One of them, yes. We have several.
No, we want to see what's gonna get done. So if this number one, number two, number three, because a lot of stuff say on hold. Is it something else I'm missing? Okay, so if this is our top priority, I think somebody need to tell us some begin dates, some end dates. So the blue color look good, but beginning dates, end dates with, we're gonna hire a design team, somebody finna come out and bring some, something to the community so we can have some excitement in our community. So that's what I would be looking for. And then the second thing, I know some of the council members, especially Louis Vieira, is, always pushing for the ADA. And all our children need to have upgraded playground equipment, all of them. So if the CRA is making a contribution for the ADA, then I would like to know, what is the city gonna do to upgrade the playgrounds, not just the ADA? Because I don't want to get caught up with, people campaign pledges that they did something for the ADA and that becomes their slogan. So I know the one that's on the council for Thursday is Reverend Scott's church. I'll never remember Reverend Scott coming here asking for it, but I know Louis Vieira pushes it. So I would like to see, I don't know how many children in that community can go on Scott's property and utilize that facility.
I'm sorry, Ms. Bird, if you could guide me back to what on our list here.
Number 11. If you pay attention, that's where I'm at on number 11.
I got another page somewhere.
Okay. So I'm just saying, I don't mind supporting that, but I want to know if it's going to be a benefit to the greater community. Not just for the pastor in that church, but for the greater community. Unless in the city is going to be matching some funds over there.
88.
I don't go to the church. I'm just saying, I want to see the greater community benefited. All right.
Excuse me, as I'm looking at for the project, the status. I know that they are going to be replacing the fencing at Memorial Park Cemetery. And this CRA is supposed to be allocating dollars, but I don't see it on here. So I do want to thank Mr. Costa for bringing it up, because I thought that it was going to be included, but it is not. So could you? Okay. And I understand that, but it's a CRA project. It should be all inclusive, so we can see the real big picture. That's what's a lot of the problem. We don't see all of that. Okay, thank you so much.
I'm going to piggyback off that. So do we have to wait to the next meeting, or can we get an update on that fence?
During the budget process.
Perfect. The other thing I didn't see on here was the Veterans Monument. Why is that a no?
That's not a CRA-led initiative. There would be no funding from the CRA. That's the conversation and started. The emphasis of that came from Councilman or CRA Board Member Vieira's office and individuals from Hillsborough County.
Well, wait a minute. I thought, didn't we sit in a meeting that you did a presentation and we were going to use CRA funds?
Not for the monument. That was specifically for defense. But yes, I did. Yes.
No.
I did share the monument here. Yes, I did share it with you.
And it was going to be $15,000, and then you went and presented to council.
Mm-hmm.
And you weren't going to use CRA funds.
So the goal is not to use CRA.
Okay, then I misunderstood completely, because that's not been my impression from the get-go. I know it's not CRA related, but maybe we can get together later. I'd like to know where those funds are coming from. Okay, perfect. That's really all I have.
Just thank you, Ms. Martinez, for all that you do. Appreciate your time and energy.
Any other questions that we move around? Okay. Thank you very much. All right.
Mr. Chair, it is about 5 till 8. In the interest of time, if we can move things along, please.
All right. Okay, budget discussion, Mr. McCray.
Good evening, members of the East Tampa CAC, Cedric McCray, East Tampa CRA manager. If you look in front of you, you have a 8.5 by 11, 14 by 14 copy of the recommending budget. I'm happy to go through line by line and highlight some of the consolidation. One of the things that I've heard multiple times is that there's so much going on, folks, or it's kind of hard to focus. So I've worked with our budget analysts to kind of condense some things. We have some programs that will be shifting as it relates to the commercial grants and the residential grants. The residential components will be coming hopefully sometime in June. And you've received an update back in March from the grants team as it relates to the commercial grants that were going to be brought forward to the CRA board in March, and they will be coming back again for final approval at the June 13th meeting. So with that being said, I'm happy to go through line by line, or I can highlight some of the changes and then discuss the recommendations and then answer any questions you all may have.
Dr. Johnson.
Dr. Johnson.
What's the appropriate?
It is the 8.5 by 14 sheet that was provided at your seat.
Well,
no, it is correct, but this is what's being proposed and for your consideration.
And the numbers are in there. So let's go with this. We're
gonna go with this.
And let's have you point out the changes and highlights. And then if someone has something specific they want to go over, we'll take the time to do that. All right. Mr. McCray, go ahead, proceed.
So as it relates to the Professional Youth Leadership Academy, you see what that line item has changed, and it is being debited professional services. We will be hiring additional support and staff and consultants to manage some of the projects. To Ms. Burton's point about folks that have to be hired, so I did highlight that in the red there. So there will be funding available. Yes.
Total consumption would be actual.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then is there any variance associated with what's budgeted and what was projected?
What's budget would be under the green column and for FY24, and it says revised budget, and that includes any changes that have been made or adjustments. So those numbers would be what was suggested.
So total consumption is actual spent to date based on 6 months of expenses?
Yes. Well, yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. As you can see at number 3, outreach and community engagement, because of some of the changes in the legislation, we've had ongoing conversations about promotional activities, special events, and we no longer can do that to make sure that we're in compliance with the state legislation. Those items have been stricken. We will have a line item for professional services, and that would be right at about $80,000. Redevelopment investment, you see where the reads loans and grants, those were a consolidation of some of the programs that we had previously. So no longer will we have listed where the various grants, and a couple of years ago there was a request to mirror the grants in West Tampa as it relates to restaurant and food service, tenant ready, upstairs residential conversion, and all of those grants will be consolidated within 3, which would be the ones that are in gray. It would be pre-development grants, commercial exterior grants, and commercial interior grants. So all of those grant programs that focused on businesses would be consolidated into those 3. Dr. Johnson.
Was there a budget workshop to discuss this?
No, we did not have a budget workshop.
Remember asking in February for us to have a specific budget workshop to go through this. I
I feel a little conflicted because there's a budget in our packet, and even though a new one has been granted, this throws off my thinking because I'm seeing two sets of numbers, even though you're giving an explanation of why that is not taking place. Yes, that a budget workshop be scheduled because there are a lot of things that we would like to see done, and I would ask that we hold this until that is scheduled and have a clean report. Because even with this say February 29th unduplicated, unaudited, you have two sets that's saying the same date with two different numbers. So I would prefer for us to have a clean sheet and then come back and have a workshop outside of the CAC meeting to discuss this. So when we come back to the CAC meeting, we can vote on what we've discussed in the workshop.
Okay. So, Dr. Johnson, I hear you. What I would like to do is to continue to go through what we have listed here, and have that discussion now. And if folks still feel that there's a need to further the discussion and have a workshop, we are on a timeline, and this information has to be to the CRA board in June.
For a workshop to avoid this. You know, that's not an issue. I know.
Yes, sir.
You work with several other persons. That's not fair to us to rush through a process in which we're looking at an upward of $20 million to say, hey, let's approve this by June. That's not fair to us because we've had two different sets of numbers. We just received a new updated sheet tonight.
Well, it's the recommendation, sir. It's not. There's no shell games, for lack of a better term or phrase. It's recommendations.
Time to talk about what's going to influence the community to make sure that everything is allocated the way that we think it should be and not in 20 to 30-minute time. So I would like to make a motion that we table this and schedule an emergency budget workshop before the end of the month. I said.
You heard the motion and the second. Is there discussion? Go ahead. Oh, hold on, we need to get a microphone.
I guess my question is for Mr. McCray. This would need to be approved or recommended after the June CAC meeting. Is that correct?
I believe it will go before the CRA board on June 13th.
Okay, so there would be one more CAC meeting before then. I, quite honestly, being new, or at least newer to this board, I wouldn't mind going through this in your overall kind of description of where we're at and how we got here. I am more than happy to do an emergency workshop at some point, but I think 20 minutes tonight, kind of giving the introduction would be helpful to some of us.
I agree with my colleague.
So we got a motion, a further discussion on the motion. We're in discussion of the motion. And the couple of comments I'd like to make are, for particularly for those who've not been through the process, going through the budget in detail in a way that you can digest it is very important for monitoring the budget as we go through the year as requests come in. So I think and the night is already getting late. We wouldn't want to rush through. So I lean towards the need to have more time to go through this. My concern is people showing up. That's a legitimate. Hold on, let me just finish. Well, let me finish you will get to talk when I'm finished. It's okay. But let me just finish this. So that's my concern, is the attendance piece. And so we need to be clear. You vote to have this meeting, be prepared to show up is all I would just suggest. So now, you had some further discussion you wanted to make as related.
Insulting someone's intelligence and not being capable to read a budget.
So I think that we all can take 20 minutes for Cedric to finish his presentation so that we can get a general understanding and then have a workshop to be better informed. Those are my thoughts.
Go ahead. Yes.
Okay. Yes, I understand the comments. I think we should have the emergency meeting. Let Mr. McCray finish his presentation. When we have the emergency meeting, will that provide enough time to present to the CRA in June?
It will be very tight.
I will be at the emergency meeting.
Further discussion on the motion. Yes.
At the emergency meeting, are we intending on voting on the budget then, or would it be at the June CAC meeting?
I recommend the vote be at the June CRA meeting, at our June meeting. Any further discussion? Can we pass the microphone down? Pass the mic.
I would just say for time constraint, I mean, this was just given that we could read this as will give us an opportunity to come back with some more pointed questions. And at that emergency meeting, then we will be able to take a vote. The point that I'm very concerned with is last year we had about $24-25 million, right? And look like our landing spot is $22 million. I would be concerned about what the hell did we do? What did we do? So a deeper dive has to be for me to say, how do we move this money forward? So listening to Mr. McCray run through all of this tonight, I think is mute, because we need to take into consideration all of these revenue spending, all of these projects, and then look at the bottom line. We heard from the community tonight what has been spent. What have we done for a whole year? Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? There being none, ready for the question? That the review of the presentation of the budget by Mr. McCray be tabled to an emergency meeting to take place prior to our June meeting. I guess that's it. Is that it, Dr. Johnson? All right.
I just, as we're still a part of discussion,
Yeah.
I want to share this. This is a collaborative board. Those who are newly appointed, not elected by the residents. It will behoove all of them to listen to those who are advisement that come from a senior status that were elected by the members of the community and not appointed by city council. We have wisdom to help with the process. It doesn't hurt to listen and help, allow us to help guide you. Because even when we go off the board, you will have that level of experience by those who've been here through these processes. I want to say that. That's wisdom. No one's intelligence is being insulted. But when you come into a new arena, it doesn't hurt to sit and listen. It actually shows your character to build, to be a part of something that is bigger than you as an individual.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Okay, so we've heard the motion. We had the second. We had discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, motion carries. I think we will schedule a urgent meeting to review the budget.
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right.
Yes.
Yes, all right. That moves us to manager's report.
Thank you, Chair Paris. Good evening, Cedric McCray, Tampa CRA manager. As it relates to the manager's report, I will highlight a couple of things, and because there were a few things that came up, and I just want to add a little clarity. But first, before we go to that, I will send out a survey of some form by the end of the week to check everyone's availability. We do have to publicly notice that meeting with the clerk's office. So I would hope that, and I'm looking just roughly at the calendar, sometime between the 21st of May and the 28th. And I know that's, I believe that Memorial Day is coming up that on the 27th. So we want to try to make sure that we're doing that before our next meeting on June 4th. So please try to respond as quickly as possible once you receive that email notification requesting your availability. So that's number one. Number two, Councilwoman Henderson will be attending our June 4th meeting. And I know that was going to take some time for that conversation to take place. So that was another reason why we wanted to try to expedite and get the budget and some other items out of the way so that we could take time with CRA Board Chair Henderson. Mr. DeLosa, you mentioned the event on the 20th. I apologize. I thought that email had been responded to. But I do know she had a conflict that day. And I was notified prior to. So I just wanted to say that on her behalf. And she may speak to it when she attends the meeting on the 4th. The Youth Leadership and Entrepreneurship Academy will be having their capstone event on May 18th. And that will be from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. at the Jackson Heights NFL Yet Center. And I received the flyer this morning from Ms. Hogan, so I will gladly forward that to your attention. The packets were already printed when I received it this morning. So just wanted to, if you can add that to your calendar, and I believe there's an RFP that's been requested if you're going to be in attendance. So please look for that. It will be forthcoming. On the purchase of 1911 East Osborne, I just want to make sure that everyone sitting here assembled understands that when the city and the CRA are coming together and working to purchase properties, it's difficult. And we have internal mechanisms that we have to follow. If it's over a certain amount, we have to have 2 appraisals done. And then that's when a decision is made on what the offer is going to be. In this specific instance, and I try to be as transparent as possible with you. And that was the reason why I brought it up 2 months ago, because I was hoping that it would come back to you in April. That didn't happen. The owner countered with the counter offer. I can't control that. Real estate can't control that. And we have to be as fair and equitable to property owners in East Tampa. Can you imagine if the CRA manager says we're not going to pay that, or we're not doing right by the resident that owns the property, and real estate and what that looks like. So we have to take all of that in mind. Also, when we're purchasing properties, to keep them affordable, we have to use our funds. And whether it's the city or the CRA, one and the same or different, with that, if we're using our funding, we're able to keep that property affordable. If it's another entity that they sell to, guess what? They can command whatever they want. If we don't have site control, and this is something I've been sharing with you all, and maybe not the newer folks, but the folks that have been sitting at the table a little longer, I've been, every month I've said we're going to be more aggressive about purchasing property. We have to get site control. I understand the concerns of some of the folks sitting at the table, but we have to purchase. Otherwise, if it's left to other individuals that don't have a level of understanding or care for creating affordable housing opportunities or attainable housing opportunities in East Tampa, we're at a loss. There's not enough green space in South Tampa. West Tampa is being built out. We know it's coming to East Tampa. So yes, we have to spend those dollars to assemble these properties. We had planning, and let me just say this. We had planning come here tonight to follow up and present what was discussed on the 20th. Mr. Johnson talked about the surveys and everything. So if the city or the CRA comes to you with a plan in place, you feel slighted. If we don't have the conversation with you, you feel slighted. We brought the information. We're sharing this with you. And we're building the plan with the members of the CAC. The neighborhood representatives have been appointed. The individuals that were elected through the previous process, we're having that conversation. This staff, your CRA manager, is open to having these conversations. I am begging them, requiring them to come and bring and have these conversations with this committee to achieve the appropriate recommendation. If we don't have those conversations, you know, government will do what government does. So please keep that in mind, folks. We're doing our best. We're going through a multitude of changes. Some of you all know that. Some of you may not be aware, but we are doing the best we can to bring this information and solicit feedback from the community. I wouldn't have it any other way. And with that, I'll close my management report.
Well, hold on. There were a couple of questions earlier about some of the programs and what was happening, and I hope you could speak maybe to some concerns from the community that the feeling that some of the programs are not moving. Right. One would be the owner-occupied rehab program, and you know, for the simplest way to address this, I know there was some comments earlier about putting money in people's hands. I don't think that's something within our programming that's set up currently to achieve. Is that correct?
That is correct. So the owner-occupied rehab program was officially approved to expend up to $100,000 for properties within East Tampa. I would have loved to have gotten to that in the budget update, but we're going in a different direction. So that being said, it took a while. The funds are there. We have over $2 million, 2.5 for owner-occupied rehab. I brought to you all a project last month of a very severe nature to start that ball rolling. One of the updates, and I'm glad we're having that conversation, is that Ms. Parks, who was our communications person, has now shifted into the housing department. She will be the CRA's liaison with HCD. Ms. Parks will be facilitating those programs and making sure that we're a funding, we will be used as a funding source and a conduit to get those infill housing projects, the owner-occupied rehab, the roofing, and the like will all be run through that, and the JOC system, which you've heard Mr. Spearman talk about several months ago, last year. So with that being said, the programs are moving. We've spent well over, and if you look at your budget, we spent over $1 million in roofing. So I don't buy that things aren't moving.
Well, they need a report to show it.
Yeah, and it is in the report.
Got it.
For
So
whom that is.
Now, other
Yes.
question I had was, one question was brought up about the number of, I think, participants in the summer youth program. In our minutes, it reflected 21, and there was an interest that that number be increased.
That's correct. And the decision was made by the CRA board at its last meeting that we will continue with the 36 that we will have in front of us. That program will be rolled out of the CRA to ensure that we're in compliance with the state legislation that has come down, and that will be in Ms. Wynn's department moving forward next summer. This will be the last summer. The consultant or the coordinator, Mr. Hunley, has been hired and is working actively, and this will be the last summer that the East Tampa CRA will fund the summer youth program. It will be rolled into Ms. Wynn's
And
department.
that's based on some of the change in the statute from last year.
Correct.
Okay.
And that decision was made by the CRA board at their last meeting.
Okay. I think I have hit all the things that I wrote down that were brought up for the manager's report. Are there other questions about things that you all want to discuss in the manager's report? Let's just get a mic over here. We'll work our way around. Mr. Delacosta, if you go past the microphone all the way over, that was Della Osa. I'm sorry about that. I threw a C in there, I think. All right, let's start over here. Make sure we get everybody a chance related to the manager's report, so that when we get over here, we're done. Excellent. Thank you. All right.
I think this is going to cap back to the manager's report. Just a couple of questions I wrote down. when some of the residents were speaking, again, I want to go back to how information is presented to the community, because I heard quite a few people saying, hey, I don't know what's really happening. How does that information get rolled out to the community? I know we have a couple of different sources, newspaper, community papers. Some people can go online, others may not be able to. But that was one question. How's the information communicated? Is your phone number somewhere prevalent, or your contact information so the community can reach out to you? Another question I had, we heard a lot of talk about the roundabouts. I respect the roundabouts. I appreciate them. My question is, does the city maintain the roundabouts, or does that money come out of the CAC budget or the CRA budget?
It does, partly. We do fund staff with the clean team or neighborhood enhancement, and they actually maintain the right of ways. Actually, during the summer youth actually participate in those cleaning of those thoroughfares.
Okay, because I think a major concern was a risk or a hazard of motorists running into stop signs. So that is something to be considered. How do we get that type of information back to the community, that it has been assessed, has been corrected, and they feel comfortable that the city is acting, or CRE is acting on their requests? I'm going to let it move around. I had some others, but I'll let it go.
Diane Ziegler, if the summer youth are going to transition away from doing trash pickup, if that's true, I would like to make sure we fund the green team to make sure that the litter is picked up in East Tampa.
We fund this.
I'm sorry for standing, but my leg's bothering me. I did have a comment when you were talking about we have to buy property, and that was part of what you were saying with your manager's report. I would agree 110%. I see it in my neighborhood, what's happening. Right on. We need to buy the property. But I heard what you said, Reverend Johnson, and my vote was no because of what these past members said. So that's impactful. And I think what happened today with that vote is it's sending a message to council that, hey, we're not going to green light and rubber stamp anything here. And that's important to me. And that's one of the reasons I'm here. I do listen to the past members. There is tremendous value in what you all have been through and what you have seen and not seen done. That's why I voted no. So while I agree with you 110%, we need to buy that property. I looked at your plan. We need that piece of property. But you know what? The message is more important. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
If you can briefly.
If I may. If you look at the packet of information you all got this evening, the memo that you received is very similar to the memo that goes to the CRA board. And that's done, and we're being asked to do that now as managers. The map is so you can visually see the language is almost verbatim what the CRA board receives in their packet. So we're making a tremendous effort to make sure that you all are well informed and can go through the item. So it's not just the manager or someone else that's managing projects coming to tell you. We're presenting the information to you in advance.
Dr. Mill. Okay.
Whose turn is it?
Is Miss Burton?
Let me take my breath.
Okay.
I'll be in there.
Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, great. I just want to make clarification concerning roundabouts. I am one of the homeowners that live a block up from all 3 roundabouts. What is happening is because the roundabouts are not cut wide enough, when you have semi-tractor trailers that come through, they have to deliver goods to the different stores. what have you, on that street, that's when the signs are leaning or even taken down. I have witnessed it, and I'm blowing and honking, hey, sir, whoa, wait a minute. That's what's really happening. There's no vandalism going on. Those roundabouts are too tight. You okay? Those roundabouts are too tiny. Bottom line, the one on 21st Street, as well as the one up on Osborne, too tiny. The one there at Lake and 34th, that's the only decent size one. But there's no people running through them, running over them. Those are semi-tractor trailers doing that damage because those things are too small. They were cut too small. Even school buses hit them. Thank you.
And I want to appreciate you, Cedric, for your longevity thus far. Because the other CRA manager, when a new board came up, he abruptly resigned. Truth be told, he left because our community was awoke. And that 17 years of running us down the rail that didn't get us nowhere, the community was tired of it. So what I would like to see in the budget is the operation and administration costs, because I think the people need to know what we paying for. Number two, when you give your budget report, and the council may do what they want to do anyway, when it comes to the property at 1911 Osborne, that you get up there and say what the community said. I'll be there. I don't know how you can amplify your voice, but we voted no. We voted no to that. We want to have some more discussions about that. And thirdly, let me just share this with the community. CRA funding is supposed to be utilized for blight, for poverty. Go and read the mission. For poverty, for blight, for mental, for disease, and all that. But when I looked at I'm just sharing this with the board real quick. Item number 4 for redevelopment project of CRA funding for the aquarium. When I hear about for the ferry, when I hear about revitalizing Franklin Street, that don't talk to poverty to me. That might speak to better lights and better cosmetic, whatever. I think we need to be very, very, focused on the fact that if it speaks to what we consider to be the needs of our community, we have to show up on a Thursday morning at 9 o'clock, irregardless of how they vote. I don't never get tired of hearing no. I don't get tired of hearing no. Because I know when they're going to need a yes from us, and then that's when we say no. That's when we have the ability to say no more to their political leadership. So again, the budget, I want to see exactly who's getting paid, what's getting paid. Again, we started out, I believe, when the budget was first presented to us, we was at $25 million. If we end up at 22, that means we simply didn't do anything for our community. And we should be better stewards of our money. Thank you.
I would just say to clarify my comments from earlier about the purchase of Osborne, more or less about planning. And I brought this up a few months ago, that this property here on Hannah was given a timeline. You knew from the beginning to the end, and they worked aggressively to make sure that this project was done. When it comes to the land assemblage of what we're purchasing in East Tampa, we're not receiving that. And that's what's disheartening to me. For us to continue to purchase, but we don't know a begin date or an end date, so we can share with the residents, this is what's coming forward. The same intensity that was put into this property of when it was purchased, when it will be fulfilled, and when it will be open is the same thing that we need for the properties that we're assembling in East Tampa. That is, Mr. McCray, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I shared that with you earlier. I know what we need to purchase, but I want them to give us the same timeline or projections, more than just renderings. Renderings are amazing because they were amazing in the SAP. How are we going to do that? Right. What's the timeline? I think strategically, everything is a timeline base. You cannot work towards a goal if you don't start with one. Even Stephen Covey says, begin with the end in mind. That's the first habit of highly effective people. What's the beginning? What's the end in mind? So we have renderings, we have pictures, but we don't have anything to say by 2026, this is where we choose to be. So that's why I voted the way that I voted.
Very well said. Because I am all about, I am here because I truly want to see our community thrive. I truly want us to make an impact and for us to have some visibility because the community is saying it. The board is saying it, but when it comes to execution of things, that's where it's lacking. So it's not that, hey, I'm not for the betterment of, hey, let's acquire this and beautify our community and create these opportunities. I just want to see things get done. And it is very difficult being new. I'm still trying to get up to speed on everything, which I'm getting water hosed down, but I'm learning. But it's just like when I hear the gripes of the community, and then I'm hearing the same, conversations that are with people that have already been here. How do I, cast my vote or say I'm for something when I don't see anything? It just makes it difficult. So it's not that I don't want to, it's not that I'm not for it. And I thank you for all of your time, commitment, and efforts and everything that you do. I just want our voices to truly be heard. I want the community's voices to truly be heard. And this year, I want to see something. I want action. I want execution. I want timelines. I want dates. We want transparency. And the community deserves it. Every other CRA, you can go in any area, you can see signage, you can see buildings, you can see parks, you can see all of those things completed. We don't have completion, and that's the struggle. And that's not your fault because I know you don't fully, that's not on you 100%, but that's where I think the frustration is coming from.
Thank you very much. Real quickly, as we move through, and thank you for your updates, Mr. McCray. I will say that watching the pace at which government moves is sometimes daunting and very frustrating. And even when you're in the system, it seems like you're lost with the process as well. I would encourage everybody to understand we advise the CRA board decides, and they are politicians and they respond to voters. So make sure that your voice is heard regarding your concerns. That is very, very important. Um, while I would agree that we can be much more productive, I feel we are light years from where we were when I got on this board. The accountability, the questions, the pushback are much more stronger under the process that we've been under. And here's what I'm going to say to some of the newer members. They can't do nothing with me. They didn't vote me in. The citizens voted me in. Now they are appointing the people they want. And it's going to take a lot more courage to stand firm and still hold them accountable. That's really important. And let's not assume the change to the appointment from the election was because they loved what they were hearing from those elected. Be very, very concerned about appreciating that. And I would assume that we're going to do the most we can to make sure you have the information needed so you can stand and ask the questions that we've been asking to keep things moving in a positive direction over here in East Tampa. With that being said, let's move on with the agenda. Up next is new business. Anybody else have new business? Anybody else? Go ahead, Ms. Fox. Yeah. Ms. Miller, you pass that over.
I'd like to submit an item to be added to the July CAC agenda. I'm saying July because I know June's going to be pretty tied up with a budget. So I definitely feel like this is about the Destination Church property on Osborne Avenue. One thing I'd like for us to do is add an agenda item that we can discuss what we want to specifically, the specific requests that we want to make to the CRA. I know a lot of times it feels like we're kind of chasing what the CRA does. And I think especially for a property where we want it to be available for low-income individuals, if we just say we want affordable housing, that's not going to get us anywhere. So I think that if we go in with specific requests that we can actually have the community stand behind, that could help us a lot better. Personally, I'm just going to add this one quick comment. Homeowners, I'm a homeowner. I love being a homeowner, but there are a lot of phantom costs that come with home ownership that I feel like puts it honestly out of the reach of any low-income individuals. Therefore, I think rental property is something we have to strongly consider that is going to get the community up in arms. I live literally right down the street. I can walk to this location. So I think that we should come to the next meeting with a list of items that we want. If we can, we're going to have another meeting there's going to be a fall workshop, but before that, there's going to be a public meeting. So the faster we get our kind of ducks in a row and we get a specific request we can send to the CRA board, I think the better off for the community is going to be with what we get on that property.
Thank you for that. Anything else? Go, Mr. New business.
I just want to invite everyone. I guess it's under new business. I don't know. Do we have a section for comments after?
We have announcements.
Pardon me?
We have announcements.
Oh,
yes. Okay, thank you. Ms. Burton.
I would just like to encourage that since Resolution 568 was adopted and passed by the City Council in 2020, so people don't think I'm speaking foreign, that if you would just get you a copy of the resolution that was adopted by the chairman, which is Mr. Maniscalco. He just was elected the chairman to run this next one-year term. That if you read that resolution, and East Tampa is in the body bed of the African community, you would have I believe, a better understanding and direction in which we should make sure that our funding go. It's almost like somebody telling you they love you, but they don't really love you. They wrote the resolution. It is our responsibility to hold them accountable. If they tell me it was a BS resolution, then I have to accept that. But until they say that, which they're getting ready to form a racial reconciliation board on May the 16th, East Tampa is part of that resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's move now to announcements.
Hello. May 18th, I want to invite all of you out to the Memorial Park Cemetery cleanup. It's there's going to be quite a few organizations there. City of Tampa Parks, the firefighters, there'll be some veterans, they'll be cleaning headstones. At 9 a.m., the Friends of Belmont Heights Memorial Park Cemetery will be hosting an event, which we will have a color guard. We will have Colonel Cedric Carrington will be there to speak. A couple of other items. We always have breakfast goodies and drinks. So we'd love to see you. We'd love for you to come out and see the cemetery. We'd love for you to be able to see that monument that we keep talking about. And it is a Memorial Day celebration. So I really love to see some of you. The headstone cleaning starts at 8:30. So if that's something you're interested in, you need to be there promptly because they start promptly. We're starting our event at 9 a.m.
What time is
One.
You got plenty of time.
Yes. Thank you. Other announcements? Quickly, go ahead.
I have my 4th annual senior scholarship giveaway. I do that. This is my 4th annual. I'm doing 4 for $500 scholarship for seniors. So if you know any outstanding seniors, I do have a flyer in which you can get that information directly from me. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. So I have, if you have anyone that you know graduating technical school, any of that thing, 2024 senior, I have four $500 scholarships that I will be doing. I do, so I'll email it to you, but I do have a flyer to send it to you.
Send it to me.
I will.
And then I will make sure that.
I definitely will give it out to everybody.
Any other announcements?
Sorry.
I would let me say this as we close out. First, I thank you everyone for your patience, from the community, for showing up. In my head, I'm thinking this meeting can be 45 minutes. But let me just remind you, democracy is messy if it is going to be effective, and it cannot run simply by a clock. So thank you all very much. Meeting adjourned. I told you, hey, Dr. Johnson, I said,
Pray for me. You said, may the Lord watch between me and thee while we're absent. One from another. Amen.
Amen. Now you guys been doing
The proposal that they gave out about
Well, I'll see y'all.
and give some much obliged. That's the case.
Yeah. What? Sorry, we can have someone out of me. I'm gonna blow your mind. I'm gonna blow your mind. This is West Ham. Everybody, we don't migrate like West Ham.
Listen.
You see that? I never compared this. But I heard comments. And that's total consumption right there. You
haven't been buying lately? You gotta drive by and take a look.
Now, you told me East Ham.
Money.
But the dynamic is different because they have more. How do you know about programs and us? We spent now we down 22. The year before, I know we spent. That's not my issue. It's got to buy problems to get money to make.
Listen, so you have to talk to your team by saying, whenever we go after property,
Right.
Let's have a preliminary plan in place of what we want to do with this. So, and just say, for example, it's gonna take 36 months for planning phase to execution. They just want to say something.
To be honest with you, y'all had a lady standing here right here, public comment. She done got 20,000 trained services already, and now she wants to plant her trees again, which is supposed to be emergency. Y'all, I'm a community investment. I'm not gonna stand up here and say, I know you can't say. You just need your roof and then. I get it. I get it.
And we don't want to.
And we're trying to build that out. Ms. Parks is there now.
Where's this energy?
No, because if I do that,
You can't. But it's the transparency. It's the transparency.
But the thing is about Mr. McCray, all of them, they're being, the money is being spent. He totally gets that. I'm talking about